Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a breaking news update in regard to Keith Kellogg. Keith Kellogg is going to be the Trump administration representative appointed for the war in Ukraine, for the Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's do not have a knee-jerk reaction. Let's do not just start running and saying, oh, this is the guy that wants to freeze everything. Listen, let's evaluate. I've done a live today with Johnny Pierce, ATB Geopolitics, also did some work with Professor Gertis right now. There is a lot of good things going on for Ukraine right now over the whole big picture. And this information coming down, at first look, you would just say, oh, this is the guy that just wants to freeze it and stop it. No, pause right there. Let's analyze Keith Kellogg. Let's analyze the United States position for a moment on this breaking news, and let's analyze the Ukrainian response. I can tell you right now, Ukraine is already responding with military analysts, political analysts, and I'm going to share with you their responses in just a moment. But before we do that, thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing, partnering with us to help Ukraine. Let's jump right into this breaking news. Keith Kellogg. First of all, who is he? Well, let's look at his background for just a moment. Keith Kellogg, Vietnam War. He served in the 101 Airborne. Fantastic. Thank you for your service, Keith Kellogg. Special Forces Advisor to the Cambodian Army. Advisor role. In Vietnam, Kellogg earned the Silver Star, Bronze Star with a V device, and Air Medal with V. Commander of the 3rd Brigade, 7th Infantry Division during Operation Just Cause. During Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm from 1990 to 91, Kellogg served as the Chief of Staff of the 82nd Airborne. Guys, we're talking about some legitimate units here. 101, the 82nd. Kellogg was subsequently selected as the commander of the Special Operations Command Europe. Everybody pay attention. Commander of the Special Operations Command Europe, SOCEUR. 1996, he took command of the 82nd Airborne Division and retired from the Army in 2003 as a lieutenant general. Guys, this is just some of the resume. There was much more. I pulled out these. Of course, he served in administrations. He served in Trump's administration. He also was a direct foreign policy advisor, foreign military advisor to Vice President Mike Pence. There is some experience here. Now, let's just don't run and start worrying. Well, he just wants to freeze it. He just wants to freeze it. Hang on, everybody. Let's evaluate. Is this good or bad for Ukraine? Let's answer. He is the author of one of the potential peace plan options for the Trump team. And it is the plan you've heard about in some sorts, but not in all details. Now, let's pay attention to it. First of all, not in the bullets there is, number one, Ukraine would stop seeking temporarily NATO membership. Ukraine would stop seeking NATO membership temporarily. His plan proposes freezing the front lines in their current state. Guys, when we're talking about freezing them in their current state, that is not what Ukraine wants nor desires. We'll talk about that in a second. The document includes a promise to provide more. This proposal, it's on a document, provides more American weapons to Ukraine only if it enters peace talks. So basically, okay, Ukraine, you enter peace talks, we'll supply you with weapons. Now, I have a question for you. If you enter into peace talks, does that mean that you stop the war? Well, that is only if they agree to freezing the front line. Is there a difference here? I don't know. I don't think anybody else knows. I'm sure President Zelensky knows much more than we know in regard to this already. And he is the one stating over the last few days, please be patient, be patient. I'm expecting good news to come from the Trump administration. Thirdly, the U.S. will warn the Russian Federation if it refuses to negotiate, Washington will increase its support for Kyiv. All right, guys, here is the golden egg that we need to look at. I'm going to tell you the analysis right now coming in from Ukraine. Remember, this is what we're facing. I've got Lavrov there on the left, Putin in the middle, Kim Jong-un on the right. And there is a reason I have Lavrov there. I'm going to show you that. Now, go back to this for a second. Is this good or bad for Ukraine? By first analysis, I think we need to be cautiously optimistic in regard to these points. Why? It's not going to be my opinion, but now I'm going to share with you the Ukrainian analysts that I'm reading after right here. The Ukrainian analysts that I'm translating, both military and political, right now. First of all, both parties have stated, and when I say that, that is Ukraine and Russia. Both parties right now says there are no options of freezing the front lines. Ukraine has stated it. Zelensky has stated it. Syrskyi is talking about a counteroffensive. And Vladimir Putin himself has said, we are not at the place where we want to freeze any lines. So X that one right off. The one that's not in the bullet was about NATO. That's not really a conversation for this good or bad. That's why I didn't include it, but it is a piece of this document and this proposal. Secondly, the document includes a promise to provide more American weapons to Ukraine only if it enters the peace talks. Well, this is not the first time, if there are potential peace talks, that this happened. We have had multiple peace talks between Ukraine and Russia early on in the war. Then they stopped. It was over, not happening anymore. And we see where we are at now, entering into the full phase of war. So are you telling me that if Ukraine agrees to peace talks, then we'll provide weapons? But what about the freezing of the front lines? Well, right now, we know that both sides do not want to freeze the front lines. Thirdly, this is great right here, guys. The USA will warn the Russian Federation. We need more than a warning. We need power behind it, but we have to be patient with that. If it refuses to negotiate, Washington will increase its support for Kyiv. Okay, this is the golden egg. Do you really think that Vladimir Putin is going to be listening to Keith Kellogg when he tells him in this document, or even Donald Trump states it later after he is elected the president of the United States, if this is the way we go? Vladimir, go to the negotiating table, and if you don't, we will increase weapons for Ukraine. Do you really think just because Kellogg or Trump says, Vladimir, get to the table, he's going? No, he's not. And this is what the analysts and the political pundits and military advisors and analysts are saying right now with this news that is breaking. Hey, this is not so bad because A, neither side of us want to freeze. We want to win the war. Ukraine wants to liberate all of its territories all the way back to the 1991 borders, eventually at the end, and liberate Crimea and establish its security and establish its future and establish freedom and move to the West and join the EU and join NATO in process. Great. Do you really think that Vladimir Putin, the egoistic maniac, is going to listen to the United States say, hey, come to the table or we're going to give Kyiv more weapons? He's going to say, okay, go ahead, because right now I've got Kim Jong-un supplying me with weapons. I have weapons coming in from Iran. I have weapons and technology coming in from China. Go ahead. Let's just go ahead and break this thing down because we're tired of the West trying to put their authority, their power on us over here in the East. It's over. Let's just gloves off and go at it now because we're living in a new world. And many times Vladimir Putin has used the phrase new world order, new world order, new world order. Well, let's see. This may be the thing that tips it off into that new world order. This is the breaking news. Military and political analysts in Ukraine are saying, you know what? Not so bad. No knee-jerk reactions. Let's just be patient. First of all, he's highly decorated. He's experienced in Europe. Yes, he may be talking about these freezes, but in addition to the freezes, we're talking about if Putin does not come to the table to negotiate, we're just going to give Ukraine and more weapons. We're going to supply them even stronger. Now, with Ukraine using American weapons, European weapons such as ATACMS and Scalps to strike Storm Shadows to strike into Russian sovereign territory, with the increase of Ukraine having the ability to strike with their own weapons, with Syrskyi coming out and saying, we're pushing for a counteroffensive, with the United States right now saying, lower your mobilization age to 18. You need more soldiers. Who's going to tell you you need more soldiers if you're looking at freezing a conflict? Be patient, guys. This may not be so bad for Ukraine, but this may turn out to be very, very positive. I hope somehow this gives you a little clarity on this selection. Not a bad guy, Keith Kellogg. decorated, experienced. When you really analyze this, get your mind off of only hearing the word freeze. There's some good points here. And finally, remember who we're fighting. We're fighting that evil dictator in the middle, Vladimir Putin. On his right, his mouthpiece and facepiece that is the foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, running around the world. On the left, his new partner in crime, Kim Jong-un, whom, folks, is all in. That man in the middle and that man on the right are all in. And I think the United States is starting to wake up to that, and Europe is waking up to that. So in general, this is positive. Why is Lavrov there? Listen, this is the madness that the U.S. and Europe and Ukraine and other nations that stand for what is right is facing. Listen to this real quickly. A little smile here.
The strikes continue with these attacks, as the Defense Ministry states. Well, we have many proverbs reflecting our people's character. Measure 7 times, cut once. God was patient and told us to be. But patience, if tested endlessly, runs out. Another proverb that Western officials should keep in mind in this situation. A Russian man harnesses slowly, but then I'm sure you know the rest.
So guys, let me explain that to you. And that's the big one. A Russian may harness slowly, meaning it may look like we start slow. We may come and do crazy stuff and just sacrifice hundreds of thousands of soldiers in our meat grinder. We may start slow. But the West knows. The West knows. And on this one, folks, the West does know. And they are learning. We are facing a very, very evil empire, dictator, Vladimir Putin, Sergei Lavrov, Kim Jong-un, and the list goes on and on. So, good or bad for Ukraine? Right now, initial reaction could be very good when you look at it all together. Be patient. Ukraine is doing some great things on the battlefield today. Yes, there's some tough areas, but there's some good areas. You guys be patient. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting, liking, commenting, sharing. This is the kind of content we want to bring to you. Facts only, breaking news, Ukrainian responses, analysts. I've translated it all. I'm sharing with you exactly what's going on. Thank you to our mods for making all this happen behind the scenes and in the chats and in the comments. We appreciate all of you. Be blessed. We'll be back later.